Hello, this is Genesis. Thank you for humoring me with that little skit that I did. This is a map that I decided I wanted to review in a series that I called Genesis Reviews that I did a long time ago and then just kind of never did another one. I would like to pick it back up, so here we go. This is going to be a rather short one. This is about a map that was created by Juju. How come Juju? Juju Rat. I'm going to show you here on screen here. Juju Rat. And he just released it. There's an update that was released just not too long ago, and I wanted to check it out. It was a really good map. So what I'm going to focus on in this is to keep this rather short, is talking about what I liked about it, and I'll talk about some of the negatives I have about it, and we're going to go from there. So the likes, let's just get going right away. It's going to be pretty quick, so I'm going to review, always kind of review, in general reviews I try to keep it unique by reviewing just if I like about it, what I don't, and then some of the more technical aspects of it. I don't know much about making maps, but I do know a little bit about well, how to make them not suck in terms of technically as well as not having a frame rate drain. So as you can see, this map is freaking gorgeous. Start with the good. My frame rate, just right off the bat, I'm sitting at 100 FPS. There's not a lot of AI on screen right now. When I had a bunch of AI running on screen and fighting and just playing around with it, I would dip down to 60 at times. Of course, if I had a huge firefight, you know, just about 200 AI or so, yes, I would dip down to the 40s or so, but that's not really the map's fault at that point now, is it? So, great. And I think that lends itself to the small size. Now, I traditionally have been more fan of bigger maps. This map is about 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers, so it's still plenty big to fight in. For a very more focused, specific mission. Not a larger capture the island or more, I think, involved or in-depth mission, but I think that's okay. I think that makes it easier for people to download. I think it's an easier pill to swallow, and when it runs nice, you can run on a wider range of hardware. You can stuff more things into it, and I think it really lends itself nicely to bigger groups as well, in terms of more specific missions that you can do. So, let's just take a general overview of it. You kind of saw some of the shots in there and that little intro scene there as well. But let's take a look at just zooming around it. This kind of beautiful looking map. You can see there's towns kind of scattered around, lots of hedgerows, and it's not just a heavily wooded area. Some maps I've tried before in Arma is either heavy woods or heavy town or just really terrible transitions. And the nice thing about this map is it flows really seamlessly. And you even have a mixture of some larger towns. And keep in mind, it's actually pretty accurate. In real life, this area of France has about 300 people living in it. So I feel like he made more buildings. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's all right. So, and the nice thing about this, I never felt like I was getting shot through a lot of the hedgerows too bad by AI. If you play with a lot of AI, which I feel like is kind of a necessity for Arma for a lot of groups. Actually, it worked really well. These hedgerows concealed me from the AI fairly well. Maybe I just got lucky or not, but I didn't think I was ever getting shot or hack shot through anything. And of course, your AI settings do matter on that. So, and you can see just beautiful transitions. I never really got bored walking around this or fighting around it. I felt like there was just a lot of diversity in such a even specialized map of fighting, moving up, you know, fighting here, moving up to the open area, a lot of hedgerow fighting, hedgerow. It felt like World War II when I was playing around with it with IFA. So yeah, I won't go on too much longer about that. I really enjoyed the feel. There's a couple things I did want to point out. That's what these markers are on the map that I really did like. So like, going along with the diversity, there's ponds in these areas and things like that, which do look pretty nice. Again, with the ponds as a small minor, it just looks really unnatural with how that should feel like from above. You can kind of see this if I get over there. It looks a little unnatural the way it is set up. That's more just a minor nitpick thing. Even this area just feels like a more heavier wooded area, right? It's a really nice, beautiful terrain. I'll get to that one in a second. Again, this is me just kind of showing off that around the world is all these kind of crater impacts. It does make it look like there's a little war-torn, but not too war-torn. There's destroyed buildings, burned villages, things like that make you can feel like the world was been lived in, but it's not completely destroyed, so the mission makers really have a lot of say in it. Another thing I like about this is, yes, this is set up for like a World War II kind of mission or maybe environment. At least that's the vibe I got from it. However, I think you could easily pull off a modern day operation here, and it would look just fine. I know sometimes there's maps that you can tell this is clearly obviously set up for World War II. It's because there's a couple of craters here and there, and a couple like rusted tank traps. You could easily play into modern times of tank traps that were left behind from a long time ago, or whatever. So I think it could, you know, pillboxes and things that were left from a long time ago, that you could easily kind of keep that up. So yeah, I think that works really well. And again, I think the size plays a huge strength for it. You know, it's really small. I think you can have some really fun dynamic missions in here as well. So here's the primary town. I should probably show that off. You can kind of see it's actually a decent size and spread out. There's kind of a little town off to the side. It's a really fun town to assault, really fun town to try to hold and to take. And yeah, so let's go to some of the negatives. And some of them aren't Juju's fault necessarily, but they're part of the map, so I'm going to have to point them out anyway. I think these buildings are from CUP or IFA. You're going to have to correct me on that one probably. But this building's actually not too bad, surprisingly. Where's this building from? I mean, a lot of these buildings I feel like aren't that great. These ones are actually pretty decent right here, and there are some pretty good ones. You can kind of see here's a good example of this. Looks like wallpaper from Windows 95 or, you know, Operation Flashpoint, which it probably is. Just going inside buildings is just kind of hit or miss in this map. I know that they're here because for the time period and all that, but they're just not really fun to be in. They kind of suck, to be honest. It's like they're kind of annoying to navigate in. It's almost like the characters are too fat to fit through these doors. I mean, they fit through them just fine, but it just doesn't feel great, if I'm going to be honest. So it's kind of, you don't play this map for the buildings inside, that's for sure. They're serviceable, they get the job done. Most buildings are above the ground. There's a couple of buildings that I think were sinking into the ground just a smidge, so you'd see, you know, grass coming through on occasion like that one, or you'd see like entire hills rolling inside the buildings, which I didn't save down an example because it wasn't super common, but it was common enough that I noticed it in a couple of buildings of it happening. So really good town. So let's start with, just to wrap this up, just a few of the things I thought could be improved and a couple of bugs that I saw. There's a couple areas, like I think up here there's a couple of places where it looked like structures were supposed to be, and I just realized there was this weird pond thing going on here, but weren't, and I don't know exactly where it was, but there's a couple areas that look like, yeah, like here's a good example. There's supposed to be structures here. There's just nothing, or it's supposed to be something as you're kind of flying over and you can kind of see him, and it kind of threw me off because I was like, oh, that'd be kind of a fun thing to put something. Looks like there's supposed to be something here, and then it's just kind of grass. Other than that, I think it's very well, you know, detailed overall and really well done. No big complaints here about that at all. So another thing that's this is more of a technical, I think, a glitch. Am I in the right area? Nope. I think it's right over here, if I say this. So most of these craters work just fine. Now I got killed about once over here, not with this crater, but these craters here have an very interesting bug tied to them that I found when I was playing. Is, as you can see, you kind of go into the sky if you hit this just right. And so I was trying to run from my crater to this crater to get in cover, like a foxhole, right? And I realized that both of these have some weird geometry going on that, if you do it just right, will send you into the sky. This one doesn't do as much as the other one. But it got me killed one situation during a pretty heavy firefight because I couldn't get in cover. So to see what this looks like, even outside of third person, kind of towards the top of it, if I can get it to go here, you can see that I am a good soldier or so up above the ground. Again, this is not a big deal. Something that I'm sure can be fixed, but just to be aware about. I don't know if it's there for all of these that are like that or not. Another little minor nitpick is there's grass in these craters. I would have loved to have a grass cutter put here to prevent the grass from growing. As a mission maker, you can do that yourself. It's not a big deal. You can see, yeah, a lot of these craters have that issue where I kind of start walking into the sky, but not as bad as the other ones, so it's kind of hit or miss, right? So I think that's the biggest, the smallest things I could find, and the biggest, no real big problems with the map. It runs great. I didn't see any blatant laziness going on here, and again, it feels rather nice. Even some of the areas that are more simple, so I think I saw him talking about he wanted to make them a little bit more interesting. Like this area can maybe, like it has like almost like this set up for a trench, right? But this worked beautifully for pushing up or advancing or taking cover. Like there's just a lot of little details in it that is done either through set map or on purpose or not, but it just works really well. So it's a really fun map to play on. So I think I'm just talking in circles here. It runs great. Again, you know, I have an 8700K, a 1080 Ti. Certain directions I typically get 100 FPS or so on very high settings. Of course, now I'm in towards the middle of the map. I'm getting around 70 to 80, right? You can see in the top left there. Again, my settings are typically on very high or standard. I'm not maxing them out or anything, but these are my settings in case you guys are curious. So I'm going to close it out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go download this map. Go give it a try. It's a lot of fun. Even if you're not into World War II, I think if you can choke down that pill of needing IFA 3 AIO all-in-one light and needing Cups core, most people already have it anyway. This map is a really good map to play on. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Take it easy.